This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, today was the first day the full team is on the field for the Brewers out in spring training. It is a different-looking group in some places, but quite a few familiar faces are still around from last year's NL Central champs, the third straight year. Milwaukee won the division, but the Cubs favored to win it this season. While most odds makers have the Brewers in second, Christian Yelich says doesn't really matter.
Everybody seems to be trying to win for the most part and put together a really competitive team, and we're doing the same thing. So at the end of the day, you still have to play the games and execute and find a way to win to see who comes out on top. But we're starting today to make sure that happens. It's one of those things where it doesn't really matter what people project at the beginning of the year, whether you're going to win the division, lose the division. Like, you have to go play the game just because they say one or the other doesn't really mean much either way.
Again, today, the first full team workout, going to play their first game coming up on Saturday. Turning to the Badgers, they'll face off against Ohio State tonight down in Columbus. Wisconsin took the first meeting between the two last month, winning by 10. Ohio State going to be without second leading scorer John Mobley Jr. due to a hand injury. Badgers at number 24 in the country. First time they've been ranked since before Thanksgiving. Tip is coming up at 7:30. And the Bucs still on All-Star break. They're going to return Friday at New Orleans.
At a time when children are in crisis, the Kids Mental Health Foundation envisions a future where mental health is a vital part of growing up. And support starts with all of us. At home, at school, at practice, everywhere kids are. The Kids Mental Health Foundation is the leading organization promoting mental health for children in the U.S. and has free tools and information developed by experts.
Having those resources is the same as the CPR class to me. We're trying to save a life here.
Check out kidsmentalhealthfoundation.org to get started.
Well, the NFL Combine going to get underway in Indianapolis next week. As they had the past couple of years, only the Packers scouting department will be in Indy while the coaching staff works in Green Bay. A pair of Badgers expected to work out for teams, wide receiver Vinny Anthony and edge rusher Mason Riker. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
As far as Malik goes, every time he comes in, it just seems like he moves the offense, to your point. I have no idea what constitutes a starting caliber quarterback in this league, but do you view him that way?
Absolutely. I think 100%. I think he's done a hell of a job. I think we've all seen it, right? I mean, when he's gone in there, we've been able to move the football. We've won games with him as a starter, so we've got a ton of confidence in him and his ability to go in there and win a game if need be.
I mean, it's a part of the job description. You just try to do what you can to take them into reps. And, if you got to get extra reps after practice or whenever you're individually, you take those reps as serious as you can because you don't know when you're going to be called upon.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Dug up some Malik Willis audio. I think that was an intro that I used after the Giants win, which was in, I think, December this last year. Malik Willis didn't start that game. He came in for a drive, let him down, scored a touchdown. Jordan Love came back in after halftime after banging his shoulder. They won that game. So I went and I dug up that audio because I want to start tonight's show by talking about Malik Willis. And not just Malik Willis like we did yesterday. Played you some of that Chris Sims audio, which I think was a little ridiculous. However, I appreciated it because it made for good content. So throw around some ridiculous offseason takes. Whatever, it's the offseason. Go nuts. So I'm not criticizing Chris Sims, but we did that yesterday. I want to talk about Malik Willis, but more specifically, what the Packers are going to do at backup quarterback now moving forward as we assume that he's going to move on. So that's where I want to begin tonight's show. So we got some Malik Willis coded audio. I even went back to Brian Gutekunst's press conference that he did, I think, the Wednesday after they acquired Malik Willis. I went back and I looked. They traded for him on a Monday. Brian Gutekunst talked about it on a Wednesday. I saved a couple of clips from that, so we'll mix that into the show just for reference. I want to talk about the Packers, the importance of the backup quarterback position, and maybe now what they're going to do moving forward. So that's where we will begin. We'll talk Badgers basketball tonight as well, and some both Brewers news and baseball news. We're going to hear a little bit from some of the players and coaches who have spoken down in spring training. Mike Clemens doing an awesome job sending us some of that audio so we can react to that. And also a massive shakeup at the top of the MLBPA. Tony Clark stepped down because of personal drama. When I saw that he stepped down earlier today, I figured he just said, yeah, F this. I don't want to be the guy in charge of this. I don't want to deal with the upcoming labor dispute and the lockout, which would have been reasonable enough. People don't typically give up power, but also as I get older, I realize people are lazy. If they can do less and still make money, they will. I was talking about this with a friend yesterday. As I get older, most people are just like me. They just want to go to work, and we're hard workers and we'll provide for our families. But if there's a way that we can do it, working less and and working fewer hours and doing less. Well, we'll do it. So I saw Tony Clark was stepping down. I'm like, oh, he's just had enough and he doesn't want to deal with the upcoming labor strike. Oh, it turns out he was embroiled in a personal relationship with a sister-in-law, which is massive because now the MLBPA is leaderless. Now they still have leaders, but the main guy is gone as they approach a massive collective bargaining agreement with the league itself and with the owners next year. So we'll get to that as well. I'll take your phone calls throughout the show too. We'll get to that right after the first break. If you want to talk Packers, we talked a lot of college basketball last night, so I'll give you an opportunity to join in and talk Packers tonight. We talked backup quarterback earlier today on Bill's show. And there's certain listeners to all of our shows, whether it's Ebo in the morning or Bill in the midday or this evening drive show. I get it every night. Talk more about football, talk more Packers, and then I'll switch and we'll talk some Packers. Then the Badgers just won a huge game last night. Talk about the Badgers. So obviously not every topic is for every person all of the time. I think there's a good portion of this show's audience. If we just talked 2 hours of Packers every night, they'd be happy, right? And I think there's some people who listen. It's like, how can we continue to bang the same topics and the same storylines on the Packers? So I understand that on February 17th, before NFL free agency, before the draft, before any trades are made, certainly before the combine or any offseason press conferences, it's an interesting day to talk about backup quarterback. But something I was thinking about, well, while Bill was discussing this earlier today, not only is replacing Malik Willis going to be a tall task because he was a good backup. He did a really good job. And we've discussed that at length. Some people believe he's better than Jordan Love, which we're not going to litigate tonight. Maybe another time. Maybe we can do that another time. But what I was thinking about earlier today is, where would the Packers have been without Malik Willis in each of these last two seasons? And not just like, oh man, they were so lucky to have a good backup. Like, no, I think it's a little bit more. I think his value is a little bit more than just a nice luxury. They were the 7th seed in each of the last two seasons, meaning they were the final playoff team. They were the last team on the playoff lifeboat each of the last two seasons. And if you go back to the Packers schedule in 2024, so last season, which was Malik Willis's first season in town, he started the Colts game that they won. He started the Titans game that they won. He played in the Jacksonville game, and when he entered, he replaced Jordan Love at a certain point. I think it might have been in the second quarter. So he played a majority or at least a significant chunk of the game. If I'm remembering correctly, when Malik Willis entered the game, the Packers were trailing. They came back and they beat the Jags 30-27. So Malik Willis was directly responsible for, or somewhat responsible for, 3 victories on the Packers schedule last year. The Packers finished the season last year as the 7th seed, going 11-6. What happens if their backup quarterback situation was bad? What happens if it was Michael Pratt? Is that the other guy? Or Sean Clifford? Let's say they win one of those 3 games. Let's say they beat the Titans, but they lose to the Colts and they lose to the Jags. Instead of going 11-6, they finished 9-8. Did the Packers make the playoffs last year? Now, it's hard to shake that out, and it's hard to know that reality to a certainty. It's impossible to know that reality to a certainty because you can't just say, well, what if the Packers had a different backup quarterback, but also the Seahawks go 10-7, and also the Falcons go 8-9, and also the Commanders go 12-5, right? Like, who knows if we're shaking the snow globe and changing the past reality, who's to say? But let's say everything about last season, 2024, remained exactly the same in the middle of the NFC playoff picture. The Commanders go 12-5, the Seahawks go 10-7, the Falcons go 8-9, the Cardinals go 8-9. And let's just say the Packers didn't have Malik Willis as a backup quarterback. Let's say they had to play Sean Clifford or Michael Pratt. And instead of going 3-0 in games started or played by their backup quarterback, let's say they go 1-2, which, let's be honest, not a terrible, that's not a terrible record. If you can win 30% of your games when you need to play your backup quarterback, that's not terrible. I don't think the Packers make the playoffs last year. I don't think they'd have made the playoffs last year without Malik Willis. I don't think that's ridiculous. I actually think that's a very reasonable take. Does anyone think that's insane? Does anyone think that's crazy? So now we look at this last season. Jordan Love in this previous season, the one we just finished, started every single game except for, remember, he sat out. No, he sat out the Ravens game, which they lost. So that much wouldn't have changed. They sat him in the final week of the season. If they had needed to win, maybe they wouldn't have done that. They also sat Malik Willis in that game for what it's worth. But the game that I look at and look closely is that Giants game. The Packers were trailing. That game wasn't going well. Malik Willis comes in, drives them down, gives them a touchdown, and sets Jordan Love in the offense up and the defense that, ultimately slammed the door in the second half. Malik Willis set the team up to win that game. Let's say they have to run Michael Pratt or Clayton Tune out there, and he throws a pick and gives the Giants a short field. Now the Packers, instead of being down or being in a tie game, now they're down 14 points or 10 points. Let's say the Packers lose that game. And at best, the Packers, instead of finishing 9-7, finish 8-9. Well, I guess there's a tie in there, so shake it out. They would be one win fewer. They would be 8. What would that make them? 8-1. Ridiculous. They finished behind the Vikings, who went 9-8, or the Lions, who went 9-8. Remember, the Packers clinched a playoff spot last year, not because they won any of those games down the stretch, but because the Vikings beat the Lions. Was that on Christmas? Or the Friday after Thanksgiving? No, it would have been the Friday after Thanksgiving because the Lions played. Was it on Christmas Day? It was Max Brosmer. That was how the Packers clinched a playoff spot this last year. So again, I think there's a very reasonable argument to be made. I don't think I'm reaching here. And if I am, you can call me on it. We're going to take calls in the next segment. I'm not trying to spin some BS to make a point here. I think what I'm saying is very reasonable. If Brian Gutekunst never trades for Malik Willis and they ride with Sean Clifford or they ride with, I think it's Michael Pratt. I keep wanting to say Cooper Pratt, but that's the Brewers player, or Clayton Tune. There's a really good chance that the Packers are riding a playoff-less streak of 2 years now. They were the last team on the lifeboat in each of the last 2 seasons. And 2 years ago, the way I count it, Malik Willis was responsible for 3 wins. And this last year, he was responsible for 1. And that might have been the difference. So, Grant, why are you talking about backup quarterback? Who cares? Why is it that important? Folks, if they hadn't had the right backup quarterback the last 2 seasons, I don't think they're in the playoffs. I doubt Matt LaFleur is still the coach. Some of you might think that's a good thing, but we're living in a very different Packers world, if not for Malik Willis in each of these last 2 years. So, no, I don't think the Packers can simply roll into next year with Desmond Ridder, who I think stinks, or draft some rando in the 5th round and we'll get him in the quarterback school and we'll coach him. I don't think they can do that. Jordan Love started or played, I suppose, 15 games last year, but he had to, leave that Jacksonville game, which was a huge moment. Malik Willis had to come in and lead the team to a win. They came back in that game. This last year, Jordan Love missed the Ravens game with a concussion, missed most of the Bears game with that same concussion. He sat out the last week, and he had to exit the Giants game with a shoulder. I'm not arguing that Jordan Love is injury-proof. I think he's tough. He played through a lot of injuries last year. If you get nailed in the head, you get nailed in the head. There's not a whole lot you can do. Aaron Rodgers took a couple of headshots in 2010. It happens. You get bent around or flexed up and you tweak your groin. I'm not saying that Jordan Love is injury-prone. I think now with a 17-game schedule, and eventually the NFL is gunning to go to 18, you're just going to have more instances where a quarterback is banged up with this or banged up with that, and the backup quarterback's going to be called on to play. And unless the Packers get substantially better at special teams, and unless they get substantially better at running the ball, and they get substantially better at playing defense, and if they get better at everything else, then maybe they don't need a backup that's very good. But the way I see it, the Packers that we've come to know under Matt LaFleur, which is a football team that's not great at the details, they find ways to lose games that they shouldn't lose, which means their margins are thin. So they're gunning for the 7th seed instead of gunning for the 3 seed, which means one loss can bork you, which means, I know I'm doing a lot of if then, but I'm trying to set up the importance of the backup quarterback position, which means your backup's pretty friggin' important. There's one player specifically that I'm very intrigued in, who I think would be an excellent Malik Willis replacement. Talked about it with Bill earlier today. I think Justin Fields would be an awesome candidate. I don't know how much he's going to cost. I was reading from Zach Rosenblatt, who's the Jets athletic reporter. I'll read you a little bit. Justin Fields is on the verge of getting benched 4 weeks ago, but those plans were thwarted when Tyrod Taylor suffered an injury during practice. This is from week 11. It was a prudent move for the Jets coaching staff in evaluation mode. Aaron Glenn and Darren Moogie, their GM, need to figure out the players on the roster that can be counted on for key roles next year, particularly on offense. Fields, who has thrown fewer than 100 yards 4 times in 9 starts, was working to counter that goal. So he's writing about their options and what they could do. He talks about releasing Fields in the offseason. This is what he wrote. There are a few different paths the Jets can take. An answer to what they should do depends on how Mogi and Glenn prepare to approach the NFL draft when it comes to quarterback. It's hard to project since, as of now, it seems only 2 quarterbacks with high first-round grades, Indiana's Fernando Mendoza and Alabama's Ty Simpson, are expected to declare for the draft. And this was a while ago. And that the quarterback class hasn't gotten any bigger. It's Mendoza and Simpson's a ways behind. So it's kind of a one-man quarterback class. Doesn't mean somebody won't vault up. Probably will. I'm going to keep reading here. Releasing Fields seems like the most likely outcome, even with the financial issues attached to that. If the Jets release him, they could prioritize eating his dead money in one fell swoop. $22 million in dead cap, $1 million in savings if he's released before June 1st. Or they can designate him to a post-June 1 release, which would move the spread of the dead cap hit over multiple years and provide more cap savings, $13 million dead, $10 million in savings, blah, 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 blah. Jets are not short on cap, blah, 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 blah. That stuff really doesn't matter all that much. Option B, trade Fields. This seems unlikely since there presumably won't be much interest, though he could be an intriguing number 2 for teams with a mobile starting quarterback, Ravens, Eagles, Commanders. If the Jets did convince someone to take him, they'd save $11 million and incur $12 million in dead cap. I think there's plenty of teams that would be interested in Justin Fields, but not on that contract. I think they'll probably have to release him, so he'll be some sort of free agent. He's still going to be making money from the Jets. I don't think he's going to have a big market, certainly not the market that he had when the Jets signed him. I don't think he had a market when the Jets signed him. They just decided to give him 20, 30 million guaranteed because they're idiots, because they're the Jets. Justin Fields, to me, seems so similar to Malik Willis. Justin Fields can throw a nice ball. He's not a great processor. He doesn't throw with great touch or with great layering. I don't think the book on Malik Willis was great touch and great layering either. He just really started to feel it in a couple of those games. And as a backup, that's all you need to do. I think Justin Fields is more than capable of taking the snap, dropping back, looking 1, looking 2. If it's not there, go. And wasn't that kind of what Malik Willis did with great success? I was reading another story that tied the Vikings as a team with interest to Justin Fields, the Niners with another. I think both of those options, if I was Justin Fields, would be really appealing. He might have a chance to push and compete with J.J. McCarthy for the starting job in Minnesota, which might be appealing. I think the Niners is probably just a great place. If I was a backup, I'd want to go play for Kyle Shanahan. I think the Packers now, especially after what Malik Willis did, have to be another appealing option as a place to just go be a high-level backup. And maybe in another year or two, you get another crack to start if you show well. Justin Fields now has had a couple cracks to start. Malik Willis had one crack, and it was with the Titans, and it wasn't even a good crack. Justin Fields got a fair shake in Chicago. He got a fair shake in Pittsburgh, and he got a fair shake in New York. It's just, that's the Jets. I don't think anyone's looking at Justin Fields as a potential starter. If they are, they're dumb. I think Green Bay could make a lot of sense, and his skill set is very similar to that of Malik Willis. I think if the Packers aren't able to get Justin Fields, they could look at other toolsy reclamation projects. Will Levis, go back to that well in Tennessee. The interesting part about Will Levis, and maybe we could also talk about Anthony Richardson, guy who is highly drafted. Now his franchise doesn't want anything to do with him. The interesting thing about guys like Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, do they have the makeup? Do they have the personality conducive to coming in, kind of taking your lumps, just taking everything in stride and being a backup and being ready when your name is called? Malik Willis was great there. Brian Gutekunst talked about that part of his personality when he was acquired, and I'll give you some of that audio as the show continues. If you take away anything from this opening segment, and I'll get to your calls right after this, it's backup quarterback, really important. If not for Malik Willis these last 2 years, the Packers may have not made the playoffs in either of the last 2 seasons. So this is not something they can just skim by. I know we're all talking about corner and D-line and O-line. I understand. I get it. But without Malik Willis the last 2 years, we could be talking about a couple of years in a row now without a playoff berth. And I just want to make sure Packers fans understand that and realize that. We'll talk about the Packers, their offseason needs, especially focusing on backup quarterback. To you right after this, 608-321-1670.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think he's always shown the traits. You know, he's a really good athlete, very strong athlete, strong arm, able to make all the throws. You know, he came from Liberty. I think in a little bit, you know, they're obviously two different guys, but a little bit like Jordan, when you're a very young kid coming from a smaller level of competition, you know, you saw the flashes early on in his preseason work. But then I thought this year, particularly, and there was a coaching staff change as well, to a little bit of a new system, but the way he his patience and the way he was going through his progressions and ability to play from the pocket, when to run, when not to run, those kind of things, I thought, you know, progressed. Again, it's a short sample size in the preseason, you know, but I thought he did a nice job. And, you know, I think his ability to win with his arm and his legs was something that attracted us to him. And, yeah, so that's kind of how that unfolded.
I went digging back through the archives. That's Brian Gutekunst the Wednesday after Malik Willis was acquired. So I think that's August 28th, 2024. I have a couple of cuts. Him talking about the decision to trade for him, to go outside the building when they're typically a draft and develop team. And I'm going to sprinkle those cuts in through the show because the Packers are presumably going to have to find a new backup quarterback this offseason. And I say presumably, but I don't mean probably Malik Willis will leave. That seems like a certainty. I suppose they could retain Desmond Ridder or somebody they already have. I don't think their starting quarterback is on the roster currently. And the reason I've elected to talk about this today, the reason that I think this is important, well, first, there's not a lot else going on. But second, I'm trying to point out, I don't think the Packers make the playoffs in each of the last 2 years without Malik Willis on the roster. He was responsible for 3 wins 2 years ago. The Packers finished the 7th seed. He was responsible for helping them win that Giants game this year, which was such a significant win. And also, they finished 9-7-1 and the 7th seed. So the margins these last 2 seasons are thin, and Malik Willis, a big part of the reason they were still able to notch enough wins to get in. So they can't just fly by the seat of their pants at backup quarterback. That's my point. I like the idea of Justin Fields, and I like looking around the league for other maybe distressed quarterback assets like Malik Willis was once upon a time that could maybe fit the bill moving forward. To your phone calls, 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Happy Tuesday, Grant.
I thought this might be you, Vagabond John. Happy Tuesday.
I love
happy
quarterback.
Fat Tuesday, Vagabond John.
Dude, happy New Year's. If you failed at your New Year's resolution in the last, we got 6 weeks into this thing, 6-7 weeks-ish. God bless the Chinese for giving us another shot.
Yeah.
If you failed your New Year's resolution, we have the Chinese New Year kicking off today, and it is the year of the fire horse. So I have no idea what that means, but if you failed, you get a fresh start.
Or just convert your New Year's resolution into what you're giving up for Lent. Convert it into a Lenten thing. I like this idea.
We could do that too. Don't give up the elevator. That was the worst thing I ever gave up for a Lent. That was just a terrible idea. 18-year-old vagabond. Bad move. Hey, Grant, you just pulled an audio clip from back when this player was signed. Do you have the tech capabilities to actually pull your clips from back when Malik Willis was signed?
Yeah, but we don't need to do that. Yeah, absolutely. That would be actually easier to pull up then, but we don't why? So you don't need that. Nobody needs that.
Would you agree that for all of Matt LaFleur's issues, right, and we've highlighted that extensively over the last couple of months as Packer Nation, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of his absolute strengths is that he's going to get the most possible out of a quarterback.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Why are we preemptively out on Desmond Ridder?
I'm not necessarily out preemptively on Desmond Ridder. I guess if they think that he's the guy and can coach him up. My point is you can't just roll with someone crappy. You can't just draft, Sean Clifford in the 5th round and make him the backup. So if they think it's Ridder, sure. I guess that could work. I don't know a ton about Desmond Ridder. And that's a good point. If Matt LaFleur, if that's his job, then he should be able to make it work. You're right.
If we think back to the day Malik Willis was picked up, right, and all these talk shows, the conversation was, oh, my God, this guy hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in the NFL, right? He was absolutely failed. He couldn't even beat out, what's his name, the Mayo Coffee guy, Levis, down in Tennessee. This guy absolutely stinks. And I think the counter was, well, if it comes down to the backup quarterback, it's not really going to matter. So It doesn't really matter. And it's just interesting to me how these conversations change over time. Because now I agree with you, the way the NFL is going and the way where it's been for the last couple of seasons, backup quarterback is imperative. But I like Ridder as an option, but it's got to work. And I don't like the idea of drafting a late round rookie. So I'm with you, and they need to find somebody. They can't just draft the next Tom Brady in the 7th round and be like, no, guys, look, it's our plan. He's the next Tom Brady, right? That's not going to fly.
Or even the next. It doesn't have to be Brady. Like the next Brett Huntley. Like that thing, or what they were going to probably try to do with Sean Clifford, or what they were going to try to do with Cooper Pratt. Like, I don't think that flies. I don't think that works.
Hey, Russell Wilson's available. And also, if you want to go back, the guy that maybe causes a lot of angst in the Badger country, Marcus Mariota, the guy who stole the Heisman Trophy from Melvin Gordon. No, I would not go with anybody over the age of 32. Here are my filters, right? Nobody over the age of 32. They must be able to run the football at least a little bit, and they must have thrown, at least a couple of tutties in the NFL. If we get a guy like that, it's a pretty wide net. My faith in Matt LaFleur to coach him up to come in and win a game in the regular season with a healthy Micah Parsons is very high.
Yeah.
All that being said, we almost missed the playoff, and if Matt LaFleur had to make Mike McCarthy standards, we'd be on a 4-year playoff drought.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm with you there too. But that's all I got.
I figured, Vagabond, you would like the take of the Packers would have missed the playoffs if not for like that. That's right off your greatest hits record. So I figured I like those thresholds. I like younger, cheaper. I like guys who can run. Here's what I wanted: a backup quarterback, and I also want this in a starting quarterback at University of Wisconsin. Secondarily, maybe we can discuss that at a different time. Backup quarterback. I want a guy who, it's not there. F it, I'm running. I want a guy who can do that. You're not going to win playoff games with that. Like Malik Willis would not have won a playoff game or many games strictly off of his scrambling ability. But beating the Colts or the Titans last year, like those are winnable. Look, if you have to start a backup quarterback against a juggernaut, against a high-level opponent, you're probably drawing dead. Doesn't mean that you can't hang in there and maybe steal a win, but you're probably drawing dead, even if you have a very good backup. But if an injury to your starter lines up the way that it did for the Packers last year, where you're playing the Colts and the Titans, well, you could win those games with a guy who make a couple reads, couple throws, but if not, F it, I'm running. Look at Drake May. Drake May beat the Broncos in the AFC Championship game doing that. He made one layered throw to Matt Collins, and the rest of the game, the only success that he had and the Patriots had on offense before it started snowing, wasn't just a product of the snow. All of the success they had on offense in that game was Drake May going, F it, I'm going. And he would run for a first down. You're not going to win enough games over a 17-game sample that way. You're probably not going to beat the Lions or the Eagles or elite teams that way. And you're not going to win playoff games that way, but you might beat the Colts and the Titans. You might be able to beat the Giants or the Jags. You might be able to survive the first half against a good team, which is really all you can realistically hope for a backup. And I like that skill set in that context. It's not there, I'm going. Willis was great at that. That's why Justin Fields appeals to me too, because he can do that thing. He's good at that thing. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. To be fair to Malik Willis, hypothetically not winning playoff games, real life, Jordan Love hasn't won many playoff games.
That's
either.
true. That's true. He only has one playoff win. He played very poorly against the Eagles last year. He played very well against the Bears this year. But you're right? Like, at what lofty expectation are we supposed to judge the backup? You're right. That's a good point, Colin. They're the 7th seed, and they're losing in the first round.
Yeah, I'm kind of all in on Anthony Richardson. Very similar to Malik Willis, high pick, didn't work out. Team wants to get rid of him. I think it makes a lot of sense.
I do too. My question is, where's his head? Is he going to come to Green Bay saying, man, it didn't work out in Indy. I maybe messed up on this, or this didn't work out for me, but that's okay, because now I have a good opportunity here, and I'm going to flush it, and I'm going to lock in. Because that's what Willis did. Willis, it was very clear he was not harboring resentment, or my fear about Anthony Richardson is he's going to show up to his next place and be like, oh, I should still be in Indy, but the coach hates me. You know what I mean? Like that whole thing. And that personality is not going to translate to a good backup. I don't think. That would be my worry there. But I love the skill set.
Yeah, I would agree. I would hope his head is getting right. You get benched behind Daniel Jones and then 44-year-old Phillip Rivers. I hope that humbles you up a little bit and gets you a new mindset of what is your place in this league.
Yeah. So if Anthony Richardson has been sufficiently humbled, I think it could make sense. Will Levis too. Like, I think that's a toolsy backup who in Tennessee, funny enough, have those players been sufficiently humbled after their first stop to come in and reapply themselves? I don't need them to be subservient. I don't need them to flush any hopes and dreams of earning another better job down the road somewhere. But if you come in with all this baggage and angst about how the world's done you wrong, and that's why you're now stuck in Green Bay being a backup, well, then I don't think it works. But hopefully the experience in both Indy and Tennessee has humbled both of those guys, and hopefully it would work.
Yeah, I hope so, just because I was looking at available quarterbacks in free agency, and the list is pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, Russell Wilson, Daniel Jones, Marcus Mariota, Jimmy G. I don't know. None of those guys excite me.
Marcus Mariota's been a pretty good back. He's going to have a sneaky, very good backup career when all is said and done. I don't. It's funny, we're comparing backups and talking about their ceilings, right? I don't know that there's a ton of ceiling with Marcus Mariota. I'd rather have him than Russell Wilson. I think Daniel Jones, I feel like the Colts are going to want him back. They just traded away first-round picks. I think they're pot committed to Daniel Jones.
Yeah, see how fast he rehabs.
We'll see how he attacks his rehab for sure. I'm going to talk some Badgers hoops coming up, Cone. Any comment, any parting thought on Badgers hoops before I let you go?
Just total beatdown on Friday night. Love to see it. This team is totally live or die by the 3-point shot. So, first round exit or Final Four is, it could go anywhere. And tonight's game seems a little trappy to me tonight.
Yeah. What scares me, Cone, that's a good call. Appreciate it. What scares me about the rest of their schedule is Purdue is really the only juggernaut, but some of these home games, man, you got to go to Ohio State, and they're having a poor year, right? But road games in the Big Ten are never easy. So we're going to hear a little bit from Jim Polzine, who joined Bill earlier. I cut a comment and saved a comment to replay because he had some really good analysis. I will humor Vagabond John. I did dig up the audio and found the show from the day they acquired Malik Willis. If I remember correctly, I hated the move. So I can wear that and entertain you with that. I can eat a little crow publicly when we get back. We got a couple more calls here we can take before this break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, Tony from Texas.
Oh, a little tone roller. What's up, Tony?
Hey, I got to give a shout out to Adam Silver. What a way to make an All-Star game even worse. I love it. It's just the NBA is such a disaster, man.
The All-Star game was better.
Comment on that really quick?
I didn't understand the format, but at least they tried. They tried harder, it seemed.
And you seem to be a pretty intelligent guy that knows his sports, and you couldn't understand the format?
Well, I didn't try all that hard. I didn't research it ahead of time.
I see.
If I would have taken 2 minutes, I'm sure I could have, but I turned it on and was confused because I'll be honest, I was not
so bad.
I was not preparing. I wasn't binging the Bill Simmons podcast to get ready for All-Star Weekend.
Yeah. Well, shout out Con Knippel. I'll give him some props. Hey, Malik Willis, I was all over that dude when he got traded. That guy should have been a top 5 pick by the Lions, and they got Jared Goff in a trade. And then he just slid down the draft for whatever reason. But you know what, man? Here, Cohen, I usually agree with Cohen. Anthony Richardson's a terrible comparison. The guy doesn't have the mind. He doesn't have the heart. He doesn't have any of that stuff. So, I mean, Malik Willis, he's got the total package, man. That guy can do it all. So, Jordan Love, I think, is a better quarterback long-term for the Packers. But with the way this offensive line was set up and Josh Jacobs being banged up, I thought this year Malik gave you a better chance to win.
I thought in certain moments, yeah. Jordan Love had a tremendous season. We're not, here's what we're not doing. We're not relitigating Willis and Love today. We're talking about backup quarterbacks. So Tony, I appreciate your calls always, not to skim past that. We'll do that probably another day, probably tomorrow at this rate. I'll eat a little crow on Malik Willis when we come back. Any final thoughts on the Packers backup quarterback situation? And then at the end of this hour, we'll work in a little Badgers basketball talk. That's coming up next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. A couple final thoughts on the Packers if you want to get in here. I'll get to your text in a sec. My opening take tonight, back at 4 o'clock if you missed it. I just don't think they can futz around and skimp on the backup quarterback this offseason with Malik Willis leaving the building. There's a great argument to be made. They only made the playoffs in each of the last 2 years because Malik Willis was their backup. He's responsible for wins in 3 games 2 seasons ago. Came in and helped them win the Giants game this year. They were the 7th seed both years. They were the last team on the playoff lifeboat. What if they don't get a couple of those wins because they got to start Michael Pratt or whoever? Jimmy Jackstraw, take your pick. Then we could be talking about multiple years out of the playoffs. That's significant. I'm not trying to drum up anything dramatic here or create content. I just think that's the reality. Wisco Sports Show, who says, thanks for sitting through the break. What's up?
It's Mississippi Drew. How are you doing?
I am excellent, Mississippi Drew. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. I think a point needs to be made here that people are missing. Everybody needs to keep in mind that it might be that a substantial part of his, let's call it, success with Green Bay has been that people aren't game planning for him.
Of course.
Right? There's not much tape on him. Like you give a mediocre to a good defense time to go to school on him as a starter week in, week out, and things might seem a little bit different. There's a lot to be said for that. And then one of the other things I just wanted to bring up is as far as the 2 walkers that we're worried about losing, man, I'm more worried about losing Quay for sure. Like, he's really coming around. He's coming into form. He's getting smarter. It'll be another year with the same system. Like, I don't know. I'm worried about losing all that production from the linebacking position. But
I'm more worried about Quay Walker as well, because I don't know that they have a natural replacement like they do with Jordan Morgan. I think those are great points, Mississippi Drew. Can I pass along a question from the live stream before I let you go?
Oh, no.
Goose Eggs just wants me to let you know that if you ever want to borrow some of his old Milwaukee tools so people stop confusing him with Amish, he's happy to do that for you.
Confusing him with Amish?
You must have crappy tools or hand tools. Is that what he's implying?
Oh, I got it. Actually, now that you mention it, I am building up a collection of old hand tools just because I'm not like a full-on prepper. Like,
Sure.
Not by a long shot.
Okay.
But at the same time, I do like knowing that if I ever need to build something without power, I can do it. So,
Hey, and one other question. How does it feel to have the second nicest truck in the Harbor Freight parking lot?
Oh, that one again? Oh my goodness.
What?
New material is needed. But Moose Legs, I love you, bud.
All right, Mississippi Drew, appreciate the call. I think you're right about Malik Willis, and I think we're not doing the Jordan Love versus Malik Willis thing today, but I did save this cut because I was just hoarding Malik Willis audio. I'm interested to see how he plays when opponents are fully prepared, game planning for him, the tape on him. It's such a schematic league. Here's Sam Brookhouse comparing Willis and Love, and I think that sentiment, the thing that Mississippi Drew is just saying, is kind of echoed in here.
Over the as reps came from Malik Willis, I really think it's difficult to say that he would be markedly better than Jordan Love. The reason why is we've really only seen 4 to 5 quarterbacks, at least as it pertains to expected points added, which is a team stat and is wrapped up in Matt LaFleur's play calling as well. But we've only seen that success be hit by players like Brock Purdy, like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson in previous years, etc. Jordan Love has at least performed in that metric extremely well. That metric explains a lot of team success. As a result, given the inconsistencies we've seen with the offensive line and wide receiving core, I think you can give Jordan Love some credit there. So I for one, am not calling for Malik Willis to start or Malik Willis to sign a $30 to $60 million contract with the Packers and take over as the quarterback. But it was a very good game.
Well, lame by Sam Brookhouse. Sumer Sports. I cut that and saved that for tonight's show because I figured it might come up. Some text here before our last break of the hour. Jim in Cottage Grove says, do you think maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves? As anybody asked Malik Willis if he even wants to go to a different team and be a starter? They make pretty good money. I could live very comfortably on what they make just being a backup and not getting the crap beat out of him. Nobody asked him. Jim, are you asking if anybody asked Malik Willis if he even, wants to be a starter somewhere? My money's probably on him eventually becoming a backup again, but some other team's going to be willing to pay him more than the Packers. So yeah, he could live comfortably on what the Packers maybe could pay him. He could live more comfortably on what another team is going to pay him. Johnny Cribbage just said, a Wisconsin State Journal article on fish fries in the River Valley area, parentheses paywall. Well, thank you, Johnny Cribbage. I'll look into that. Very topical. More of a comment, really, than a Packers question there. We'll take a break here, come back. I was able to dig up some old show audio of me slamming the Malik Willis trade, so we'll do that. And a couple Badgers basketball thoughts to wrap up the hour as well. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
With Pella, you get so much more than stunning windows and doors. You get the Pella experience. Pella manufactures, sells, installs, and services every product. And with a 10-year labor warranty, your windows and doors are worry-free for years to come. If something goes wrong, we're here to handle it because you work with the same team from start to finish.
Right now, get 0% interest for up to 48 months.
Visit PellaWI.com today.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. A little bit of breaking news. Cone Roller actually broke it. Per Cone Roller, the Packers were trading a 7th-round pick for Malik Willis. And honestly, I almost just slipped up and said Deshaun Kaiser because this feels like the exact same thing. There you go. A little show history. That's live reaction. I guess Cone Roller broke the news on the show. He must have been calling in at the time. He was better than Deshaun Kaiser. My takes age poorly. I'll give you another minute or two of my reaction from that day. It's the Wisco Sports Show. Want to get into some Badgers hoops next hour. We'll push it into the 5 o'clock hour. I also want to talk about some baseball news as Tony Clark is no longer in charge of the union. Holy smokes. Huge news. I mean, it would be big time. Anytime the leader of a labor agency steps down. This happened recently with DeMaurice Smith. Well, no, or whoever replaced DeMaurice Smith. Who was it? Was it J.C. Treader? I can't even remember. It's a big deal anytime it happens. It's an especially big deal whenever there's a big-time labor dispute coming up. And in the case of baseball, I don't know if you've heard about it. We're expecting some pretty big unrest in the next calendar year. Maybe even a lockout that cost them the whole season. So that's the context in which this news is broken. Tony Clark stepping down as head of the MLBPA. And maybe Scott Boras just steps in and runs it directly instead of running it in the shadows, which is basically what he's been doing. But Vagabond John asked for this. I can give it to you. This was my reaction to the Packers trading for Malik Willis. August 26th, 2024. Here you go. You want to trade a 7th to make sure that you don't miss out on Malik Willis on the waiver deadline. Whatever. That's fine. It's just the Packers understand, obviously, in making this move, that they need to get better at backup quarterback. Okay. That Sean Clifford is a college prospect who wasn't that great of a prospect in most people's eyes, is not translated to the NFL. Michael Pratt is young, unpolished, don't really know what we have. Okay. Brian Gutekunst realizes that, says we need to improve the quarterback room. And what he does is trade for a guy who is a prospect at college who also hasn't translated to the NFL level. Okay, well, so we get a slightly older version of Sean Clifford? Everything's fair so far. Is that what we did here? Do you know the expression, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? The Packers with quarterbacks, it's the opposite. It's like, why would we buy the milk? I could simply buy a cow and build a barn and grow its food and milk it every day, and maybe the milk will be good. It's like, well, no, we don't need all that, though. We just need a bottle of milk. That's all we need. You just want to go out and buy the milk? Oh, no, we'll develop our own milk. It's like, God. Maybe Malik Willis is a fine backup quarterback. I just know there are other quarterbacks. It doesn't even have to be a veteran backup. Like, that's a cliche that gets thrown around and that gets overused because there aren't that many options. But it's so clear that you need help at backup quarterback, and yet you kind of got another Deshaun Kaiser, a slightly older, bigger, stronger Sean Clifford. Actually, I don't think those takes are horrible. That milk cow analogy would have gone so hard if Malik Willis would have sucked. That would have been such a banger. Let's take a call here, and then I have another minute of that. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this? Hello?
Yeah, this is Dan.
Hey, Dan. Hey, Dan. What's up?
Here's a scenario for you. How about if we go trade Love for whatever we get for him,
Okay.
and we get anywhere from $20 to $30 million in cap room to go and sign 1 to 3 other players to solidify the defensive line, the offensive line, cornerback. We maybe take the quarterback position down a little bit, but we solidify other spots on the team.
And you would then want to keep Malik Willis.
Yes, and sign him to a $30 million contract, say.
So you'd save like 15 a year on the quarter. You wouldn't be saving that much if you signed him to 30 million a year.
Isn't Love towards 50 to 60?
Yeah, I think, what is he, 50? So it's maybe a little bit more than 15. It's also tricky, Dan, and I'm just running up against it. Appreciate it. Call another time. It's just tricky because you can't trade Jordan Love and get all of the money off the books. There's going to be some residuals. So you'd save a little bit. It wouldn't be nothing. You'd save a little bit. But what? You're going to trade Jordan Love to sign Malik Willis and then essentially keep like Quay Walker and maybe get like a bottom of the roster wide receiver is essentially what it would come down to. You can't, and also it's a fun hypothetical. It is. And I understand some of you like Malik Willis better, and you're free to feel that way. I don't feel that way. And I think in any other franchise in any other market in the country, not Green Bay, where we didn't just have Rodgers and Favre, I think it's insane. I don't think anyone would feel that way about a backup because Jordan Love's really good and just had an awesome season. But you can't just simply clear the decks by trading him. So as a hypothetical, it's interesting. I still don't agree with the hypothetical, but I can't agree with the situation at all because in practice, it doesn't work like that. Here's a little bit more. I'll eat a little bit more crow, and then we'll go to break here to get Zach's update. But I need to press play. You know that tweet or that viral theme where people will say, like, men will literally do anything to avoid going to therapy. The Packers will do literally anything to just avoid signing a respectable backup quarterback. That's it. That's all you need. It's clear that you need backup help. In making this move, the Packers realize that. Brian Gutekunst realizes that. Malik Willis is fine. It's just, why do we work so hard? We're going to draft and develop Sean Clifford. We're going to draft and develop Michael Pratt. Now we're going to trade for and develop Malik Willis. Why don't we just get one veteran backup quarterback? And I know I try not to use that phrase, but what if we just sign one? Doesn't even cost us any picks. Costs a couple $1 million, but the team is cheap right now anyways. Why don't we just do that? Do you know what I mean? It's just a little obnoxious. It's like they're trying to work so hard to accomplish a task that really shouldn't be that difficult. You know what I mean? It's the opposite of why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free. Such a good idea. Why buy the milk when you can get a cow and build a barn and grow its food and milk it every morning and get all the equipment to pasteurize and to process, and maybe at the end of the day, after all that work and all those resources, you'll end up with a bottle of milk. Maybe. Just buy the milk, Brian. Hour 2, Wisco Sports Show next. That's okay. Again, I turned out to be wrong. Malik Willis was a lot better than Deshaun Kaiser or Cooper Pratt, but that whole cow milk analogy that's kind of on the spot. Like, we're going to get a reclamation project and coach him up and hope that it, like, just go sign a back. I like the analogy. I'm not overly embarrassed by that commentary. I was wrong, but I'm not embarrassed by that. I think that's sharp. And if Willis would have sucked, that would have been some Hall of Fame audio right there. Hour number 2, I want to talk a little Badgers basketball. Talk about some baseball news as well in hour 2. But first, Zach Heilprin's update. No commercials, just 2 minutes. The latest in Wisconsin sports. Be right back.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Wisconsin is in Columbus. It's where they're going to face off against Ohio State tonight. They're going to do so as the number 24 team in the country. First time they've been ranked since before Thanksgiving. They got there thanks to wins in 9 of their last 11 games, including a pair of top 10 wins last week. Over those 2 games, Wisconsin hit 31 three-pointers, shot north of 40% from 3 in both games. Nick Boyd was a big part of that. He flat out said very few teams can play with them when the ball is falling like that.
I always say, we shoot like that, ain't no team in the country that can beat us. So, stay confident as always. And I just think that's what it is. Like, it's the confidence, man. You see Ozzy coming down the court with that type of confidence, ready to pull the trigger. Nolan, JB, like, it's just too much. It's too much. I don't even know. It's too much.
Boyd enters tonight, averaging north of 20 points per game, looking to become the first Badgers player to average better than 20 points per game since Michael Finley did so 31 years ago. Boyd was named Big Ten Player of the Week yesterday after averaging 27 points in those wins over Illinois and Michigan State. Badgers 1.5-point favorites tonight. Tip down in Columbus set for 7:30. Meanwhile, the Bucs still off for the All-Star break. They're going to be back in action on Friday at New Orleans.
At a time when children are in crisis, the Kids Mental Health Foundation envisions a future where mental health is a vital part of growing up, and support starts with all of us. At home, at school, at practice, everywhere kids are. The Kids Mental Health Foundation is the leading organization promoting mental health for children in the U.S. and has free tools and information developed by experts.
Having those resources is the same as the CPR class to me. We're trying to save a life here.
Check out kidsmentalhealthfoundation.org to get started.
Well, it's officially spring training time for the Brewers as the full team reported yesterday out in Arizona. Today, their first official workout. They're going to play their first spring training game coming up on Saturday. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
As far as Malik goes, every time he comes in, it just seems like he moves the offense, to your point. I have no idea what constitutes a starting caliber quarterback in this league, but do you view him that way?
Absolutely. I think 100%. I think he's done a hell of a job. I think we've all seen it, right? I mean, when he's gone in there, we've been able to move the football. We've won games with him as a starter, so we've got a ton of confidence in him and his ability to go in there and win a game if need be.
Financial part of the job description. You just try to do what you can to take the mental reps. And if you got to get extra reps after practice or whenever you're individually, you take those reps as serious as you can because you don't know when you're going to be called upon.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
All right, hour number 2. I have some Badger basketball things that I want to hit. Some big news in baseball today. Tony Clark stepping down. That's significant. We'll get to that. Maybe spotlight a couple Brewers players that have met with the media. Mike Clemens sending some really great cuts of audio that I can share with you. Tonight's show, our presenting sponsor, In on the River. Online at inontheriverwi.com if you want to head to the western side of the state. I was there last weekend because, well, of course I was, but I'm over there a lot. And if you ever want to take a trip, see the beautiful Mississippi Valley Bluffs, I can't recommend it enough. The joint's right on the river, around the corner from the Trempealeau Hotel. Food, live music, great bar, walking distance right down the way to Sullivan Supper Club as well. It's right on the water, so the view outside your room is just absolutely beautiful. Their Facebook page posting updates all the time, In on the River Trempealeau, inontheriverwi.com, or give them a call, 608-534-7784. It's fun continuing to milk the Malik Willis situation for content. We're going to get some more segments out of that this offseason if I have anything to say about it. And their backup situation moving forward. Because I don't, Packers fans, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this. And I don't think I'm reaching here. I don't think I'm drumming up drama. I don't think I'm creating anything for content or for narratives. Without Malik Willis the last 2 seasons, you can make a good case. They don't make the playoffs in each of the last 2 seasons. Rick from Spencer on the idea of Justin Fields. This is a good point. Luke Getsy couldn't fix Justin Fields when he was OC. I don't think he's going to be on the Packers' most desirable list. Well, yeah, not to start, but as a backup, make a couple reads, deliver the ball if you can. If not, tuck it and run, Justin. Go! It's a little different than a starter. Luke Getsy was also the OC, so level farther down. I just believe in the Packers apparatus, even with Luke Getsy, a lot more than I believe in what the Bears had at that time. Madtown Ryan, Red Bull. How many times have we said it's $100 million cap room if we trade Love? It's not. It's not. Not this year, at least. Maybe if you combine the next couple of seasons. But this is the thing that a lot of Packers fans aren't grasping. If they trade Jordan Love this year, it's not like they open up $50 million in cap space. Well, then you sign Malik Willis for 20 or 30, and then you can sign a bunch of other guys. Well, it doesn't in practice, it doesn't work like that. Because you can't trade because some money's going to stay behind. So really, you're just creating a big pig F. And I also, look, you have whatever opinion you want. I think it's nuts if you think that Jordan Love should be replaced by Malik Willis. I think Malik Willis is a nice player. But I think if Jordan Love exists in any other market, on any other team in the National Football League, the fan base is a lot higher on the guy. Jordan Love just had a bitchin' season. and played better than just about any other quarterback I watched in the playoffs. I thought Jordan Love against the Bears in that playoff game played better than any quarterback I watched outside of maybe Darnold and Stafford in the NFC Championship game. Josh Allen dumped his pants. Trevor Lawrence dumped his pants. Drake May dumped his pants every week. He was the quarterback that qualified in the AFC for the Super Bowl. I thought Jordan Love was great. He had a great year. So I'm not telling you how you should fan. I'm going to try to tell you a little bit to maybe drop the sunglasses through which you watched Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre for so many years and realize that Jordan Love, this cat, he's pretty good. Had a pretty good season. And I think they have a lot bigger problems than the quarterback. They got a lot bigger problems than their quarterback, as we've talked about in detail. Jim Polzing, let's talk a little Badgers basketball. Getting ready for the Ohio State game tonight. I have a couple of cuts from the Bill Michaels show earlier today. First and foremost, Jim Polzing kind of echoing some of the things that we talked about yesterday when Bill asked Jim, is this the team that you expected? Now a couple of wins over top 10 teams. Is this the type of team you expected at the beginning of the season?
I think it's where I thought they could be. I think one thing you have to look at when the season started, they had so much turnover, so many new faces. There was really Blackwell, Winter, Janicki, and then a bunch of new guys. And while there was a lot of talent there, you kind of wondered how long it would take to kind of piece it all together. And we saw a lot of growing pains early this season. You know, a lot of games that I thought they had a good chance of winning or should have won that they let slip away. And so by January, they really had no resume, no great resume to speak of. And since then, they've turned it on, and they've 3 top 10 victories in that span. I think they're playing better on both sides of the ball. So I think, yes, the talent, which I think was there all along, is finally turning into a cohesive unit.
And again, things we talked about last night. I just think with a couple of signature wins, they probably rallied the troops a little bit in a long slog in the middle of the regular season. The defense is clearly starting to get better, and you hear the players talk about it after the game. Here's Jim Polzing, a little bit more specific on a couple areas of improvement that he's noticed.
Yeah, I mean, 3 things. I'll try not to be too long-winded. I mean, Nick Boyd and John Blackwell are playing better together. They're both really, really talented guards. I think it took them some time to kind of gel and figure out how to work off one another. So I think since that's happened, this team has become really, really hard to defend. Really, really hard to keep, Boyd away from the basket, Blackwell away from the basket. Those two are pretty good at sharing the ball. It's, that's probably the first thing I'd mention. Defensively, this team has come a long way. It's by no means a great defense yet, but it's come a long, long way since December and early January. They're much grittier on that side of the ball. There seems to be more of a connectedness, connectivity, whatever word you want to use. That comes from reps. That comes from getting to know each other and being connected. And then the last thing I'd mention, and Greg Gard brought this up the other night, is that he just didn't think this team was very physically or mentally tough early in the season. And maybe that's why some of those games got out of hand. And Nebraska was one of them. BYU's another, where they faced a deficit and they just didn't have the, mental fortitude to get over that hump and get back in the game. And instead it went the other way. And so that's come in handy the last couple 2 to 3 weeks, because they've had some double-digit deficits, and instead of the game getting away from them, they've battled back and not only gotten the game closer, but won some of those games. So I think there's really a lot of things at work, and they've all kind of come together at the right time.
The mental toughness part is real. My biggest complaint about this team early on is that they let go of the rope. They let go of the rope against BYU. They let go of the rope against TCU. Let go of the rope big time against Nebraska, where it's like, can we lock in a little bit? Can we act like we want it a little bit more? There were times, and I don't know if it was the Marquette win or maybe the win over UCLA where Nick Boyd got teed up. I think it was UCLA where Nick Boyd got teed up at the end, and it was clear. It's like Nick Boyd didn't come to Madison to have a middling season and fight and scratch and claw to barely get in the NCAA tournament. Like, you could tell that he had it. He had that edge, and he had that bark. I questioned if the rest of the team had it. I think they needed a big rallying moment, and I think that came against Michigan on January 10th. And to their credit, it came in a comeback. So that resiliency, that toughness, that fortitude that Polzing was just talking about, Jim Polzing, State Journal, Badger Extra, I think you've seen it both in the Michigan win and the Illinois win the other night on the road. They came back from, I can't remember the largest deficit. Was it 12? I'm not trying to over-exaggerate. Maybe it wasn't as many. I seem to remember 12. Another thing, we haven't talked about this on this show enough. But Jim Polzin talking about the faster pace with which Wisconsin is
Even
playing.
after made baskets, Bill, they get the ball up the court quickly. This is a team that, for years they've been saying they want to play faster, and there's been signs that they've played faster. This team has taken that up a level. They get the ball up the court. A lot of that is Nick Boyd. I mean, Nick Boyd can cover a lot of ground in not many dribbles. He's fast. He has a motor on him that he wants to just get going. Sometimes they get them in trouble. He goes a little too fast, but between him and the guys around him, I think this team wants to play fast, and it's resulted in some easier buckets than usual. It's forced defenses to put them on their heels. They're not allowing defenses to get set. And you're right. If they can combine turnovers with that, you just get easy baskets. And for so long, I watched this program struggle to score, and a lot of it was every basket was difficult. They had to work so hard for every basket. This year, that's not the case so much. They're able to produce some pretty easy baskets, and not only does that add to the scoreboard, but it builds confidence. Like, if you see the ball go in the basket, it makes it easier the next time down the court. And I think this team has done that probably better than previous UW teams.
I think we talked about this with Jesse. Maybe it was with Zach, where this team, for as many threes as they've taken and for as much emphasis as they've put on offense the last couple of seasons, they haven't really ratcheted up their pace. And when we were comparing Nick Boyd and John Tonje, especially earlier this season, when we were trying to figure out maybe some of the similarities and differences from last season to this year, one of the things we pointed out is Boyd gives them a speed and a pace that they didn't have last year, that Tonje didn't really give them. Tonje was, I always thought of Chris Middleton watching John Tonje. Not fast, not necessarily explosive, but very in control and methodical and in control and methodical. That's the perfect way to describe it. Boyd is in control most times, sometimes a little out of control, but the speed with which he can get to the rim stretches defenses and stretches all 94 feet or 92, 94 feet of the court in a way that they haven't really been able to do in the past. So they can shoot all the threes and they can play offense with the extra emphasis that we've seen the program add the last couple of years. The pace is something that's taken a big jump as well. And lastly, one more cut. This is a Jim Polzin State Journal Badger Extra on Nolan Winter.
He's become essentially a double-double machine. Still a guy that's going to hang out around the perimeter and want to shoot the threes, and is very effective shooting threes at times. I think there's probably still room for him to grow as a paint presence. And, the more adept he can become on the blocks over the next 4 or 5 weeks, I think that's going to go a long way with this team because, we've seen it. When they shoot the three ball well, they can beat pretty much anybody. But there's going to be a night or two in March where the three isn't dropping at the rate they want it to, and you got to find other ways to score. And I think that's where Winter can come in handy. He can, if he can be a presence around the rim, finish, get to the line, I think that's big. And then on the other end of the court, rebounding and maybe a rim protector. I think those are two of his strengths. He's long, he's bouncy, not physically probably where he wants to be, but has gotten, has made strides in that area. So, I think he's turning into a really, really complete player. And yet I still think I don't think he's reached his ceiling.
I'll continue to bang this drum on Nolan Winter. I don't think his weakness has been physicality. He's never going to be Kofi Coburn. That's always the Big Ten example that I use. He's never going to be that guy. He's never going to be Isaac Haas. The idea was he holds up physically well enough, and I think he's more than done that this season. Not in every moment of every game, but on balance, I think he has. The idea is he holds up physically, and he's skilled. The three-point shooting, the touch, right? And again, sometimes my mind's eye isn't always accurate to the theme of the season. So I can watch a player on any given night and say, I don't know about this, that. And then I look at the numbers for the whole season that they're actually pretty good, right? I have been underwhelmed with Nolan Winter's skill. I would like to see him be a more consistent three-point shooter. I would like for him to be a player that, more consistently stretches defenses when they want to go 5 out or when he wants to pop out to the top of the key or to the wing. I don't really feel all that confident in his three-point shooting ability. He's made some high IQ plays, and the physicality, I think, has more than been there in most games. The skill is what's been lacking for me, which isn't what I would have expected, 2 years ago when I first watched him as a freshman or, even last year when I think, okay, so he's starting to take some steps. He's gotten bigger and stronger, and I think that part of the game has progressed maybe even better than I could have hoped for, which I know a lot of Badgers fans are going to roll their eyes and say, well, how can you say that? Well, guys, he's tall and skinny. He's not Isaac Haas. He's not Zach Edey. He's thinner. I think for his frame and for his size, he's applied himself really well. I don't think you can compare him to Nate Reavers. The skill is, I'd like to see a little bit more of that. A little bit more in that, because he was, he's proclaimed as an NBA prospect for that reason, not necessarily because he was going to bang guys around, but because the skill was going to be there. That's going to translate, or was supposed to translate, to the next level. And it still could. Just hasn't jumped off the screen and off the court like maybe we thought, or maybe I thought. So Wisconsin, Ohio State tonight. I was interested in the line. So Ohio State's actually favored at home. They're -1.5. So very close, when you consider home court advantage. The rest of their schedule is at Ohio State. They have Iowa at home. At Oregon, at Washington is tough. Now, both of those programs stink, but a long West Coast road trip. I'm trying to figure out the game that they're most likely to drop, excluding Purdue, of course, which will be at Mackey on Saturday, March 7th to close the regular season. If they win tonight, that'll be a very nice win. They should beat Iowa at home. They should beat Oregon and Washington on the road, although I look at those games sideways a little bit. Like, what I could see is they play really well, Wednesday against Oregon, get that win, and then Saturday, they're looking ahead. They've been out on the West Coast a couple of days. And maybe that's the game that they drop, which is what I think they did against UCLA last year. I think that's how their West Coast trip went last year. And I suppose let me kick the schedule back. Let me see if I'm remembering correctly. When they had a West Coast swing last year, I think it was later. Yeah, they went to USC and won Saturday. And then Tuesday night, they dropped 1-2 to UCLA because that mongoloid freshman popped off, didn't he? What was that cat's name? I think he's still there. O'Mara, that's right. Yes, 7 of 7, 8 of 12 from the free throw line. Give me a break. So that's the type of situation that worries me if we're, prognosticating or looking forward and looking ahead at the Badgers' schedule is, can they navigate a couple of road games? Tonight included. Tonight's not an easy game. Ohio State's not having a great season, but they're home favorites tonight. Can you clear that West Coast swing beating two inferior opponents? You should be favored at Oregon and at Washington. God, I hope that they beat Iowa and Maryland at home. And then you're looking at a regular season finale matchup with Purdue, which would be Saturday at Mackey. So if they're able to, let's say, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 down the stretch, they finish the season with 23 wins. That's not too bad, especially considering how they started against Nebraska, BYU, and those types of teams. And I don't know how that affects their bracketology. I could check that during the break. I did a hit this morning with Brian and Gene on Rock Mornings. Like, what are we looking at for seeding? I'm like, I don't know. I'm the last guy to ask about that nerdy stuff, but I can pull it up. I'd like to dig into that over the break. Your texts and your thoughts on Badgers basketball. Bart with a good point. Mara's at Michigan now. You are correct. He was the guy who popped off at UCLA against the Badgers. Thank you, Bart, for that text. And I'll get to more of your thoughts on Badgers basketball. If you have any texts or calls, the number is 608-321-1670 to you right after 3 minutes. Very short. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Give me your thoughts on the Big Ten and where it stands.
Yeah, it's really good at the top, not very good at the bottom, and then there's some middle that's, I would say pretty good. I think a team like Michigan I thought would be good this year. They've been even better than I expected. Nebraska is way better than I expected. I thought Illinois would be really good, Purdue really good, Michigan State really good, Wisconsin I think is right there in that mix. So there's if ever the Big Ten is going to end its title drought, I think this year they go into the tournament with more options. I think Michigan can win a national title. I think Illinois could win a national title. I even think Purdue could win a national title. That's probably where I'd stop the list. But that gives you three legitimate teams that are quote unquote title contenders for a conference that hasn't won one in 26 years now. So I think it's a really good league. It's a little weird in that it's, there's probably 5 or 6 really good to excellent teams on the top. And then there's some really bad at the bottom.
One more cut from Jim Polzine earlier today on the Bill Michaels Show, just talking about the Big Ten. Some of the bottom feeders in the Big Ten that Jim's talking about, really good at the top, really bad at the bottom, which by the way, is probably true of most conferences now, considering most of these conferences have 20 teams. So, there's going to be a handful of elite teams, and the Big Ten has Michigan, Illinois, Purdue, Nebraska. Wisconsin feels a step beneath that tier, although they've beaten Illinois and Michigan on the road. Michigan State, Wisconsin are then tied 10-4 in the conference, right behind UCLA, right behind them. But of course, you go all the way to the bottom. Northwestern's 2-13, Oregon's 2-12, Washington's 5-10 in conference play. Maryland's awful. Wisconsin has them remaining, Oregon and Rutgers as well. Of course, there's some bad teams at the bottom of the Big Ten because there's 20 of them. It's even in the Big Ten's best year, there's still going to be some dogs at the bottom. You'll always have Penn State, of course. And Ohio State, even a middle of the pack team, 8-6 in conference play, favored at home tonight against Wisconsin. Because winning on the road in the Big Ten is very, very, very difficult. I was looking at some bracketology here over the break, and this is from Brian Logan at Clutch Points. They have Clutch Points has Wisconsin as an 8 seed today in their bracketology in the East region. So they would match up with Miami in the first round for whatever that's worth, which is almost nothing. But I do just like the initial read of an 8, or I like getting a vibe and nothing else. Wisconsin's had some major upsets this year. Earlier, they gave Michigan their only loss. Last week, Wisconsin got 2 more, defeating Illinois and Michigan State. I'm abbreviating a little bit what I'm reading. After 2 huge wins this week, Joe Lunardi of ESPN has given a new ranking to Wisconsin in his latest bracketology. Lunardi now has Wisconsin projected as a 7th seed. That moved Wisconsin up 1 spot from where they were last weekend. It also places them projected to face Texas A&M in the first round and to have a potential date with 2 seed Houston in the next game. This is not the highest ranking that Lunardi has given the Badgers this year. In the initial rankings that came out in November, Wisconsin was projected as a 6. Still, by the end of December, they were on the bubble and seen as one of the first 4 teams out after they had dropped to 9-4 on the year. January wins over UCLA, Michigan, Minnesota, Rutgers got Wisconsin back into the projections. Lunardi placed them back in the tournament as a 10. They would fluctuate between the 8th and the 10th until this past ranking. Sitting on the 7 line, Wisconsin now has its highest projection since the start of the season. So Clutch Points, their bracketology has them at an 8. Lunardi has them at a 7. And I don't know that they can jump much higher. They do have a fat piece of meat in their regular season finale if they were to go to Mackey. Can you imagine if Wisconsin goes to the Chrysler Center, they go to Illinois, they go to Champaign to beat Illinois, and then were to go beat Purdue on the road in the same season, and you also have a home win against Michigan State? You're a Dragon Slayer. So I don't know what kind of seed that would net you. I wonder as we move forward into, this new era of college basketball, I wonder if, games earlier in the season are weighted more lightly because half of these rosters are brand new. Like that BYU game or even the Nebraska game, like shouldn't a game later. And by the way, I don't care about the bracketology. I don't really care where the teams ranked. I thought Wisconsin had a pretty decent seed last year and they still get stuck playing BYU in essentially a true road game in the tournament. So you can get porked and boned even when you have better seeds than worse. It can happen. So I don't obsess over it. I'm talking about on balance how we view a team over the course of a season. And I'm wondering moving forward, I'm not saying we should turn November, December into a preseason because all the games count and they all go into the standings. But as we form opinions on how good a team is, how strong a team is, forget the records because the records, that's wins and losses, and you count all those the same. The wins and losses in December count the same as the ones in March. Just like in baseball, they count the same in April as they do in September. I just wonder moving forward if we don't start to think a little bit differently about early season matchups and early season losses. I find that thought process interesting, especially because we were so on the nuts with this team and some of our cope early in the season. We talked about this yesterday, where with losses to Nebraska and rough early season losses, like, well, maybe the defense is just going to take some time. Newer personnel, defense takes longer. Maybe they just need some time to get acquainted. Austin Rapp just needs some time to figure it out. Bielauskis, who eventually took over in the starting lineup, maybe he just needs some time to get his feet under him in a very, very, very physical Big Ten. And all of that stuff came to play. All of that stuff lined up. And now we're looking at a team that has, a collection of 2 or 3 of the best wins in all of college basketball this year. And Nick Boyd, not just one of the best, but one of the most experienced players in the conference as well. Like, he's played in a Final Four. Frank Kaminsky reminded us of that before the season when I can't remember who it was, talked about Nick Boyd as a relative unknown. And Frank Kaminsky's like, anyone who knows college basketball knows Nick Boyd. It's like, okay. All right. I don't know. Vagabond John in the live streams can get to a 4. Other teams will lose. I mean, that's a good point. Other teams could lose and go down. Wisconsin really has, they really have a good stretch here to make some hay if they really wanted to put a final charge on. Ohio State tonight will be an obstacle, but they have Iowa at home, Maryland at home, Oregon and Washington on the road are proverbial punching bags. It's a long West Coast trip. I don't think it's as long as their West Coast trip from last year, though. If I remember correctly, last year, didn't they have a couple more? I guess not. No, last year it was just UCLA and USC. So I guess it was just the two West Coast teams. So that is tricky to me. That worries me a little bit. But they really have an opportunity if they can go 5-1 down the stretch, or 5-1 or 4-2, and man, if they could pop Purdue on the road, they could really vault themselves. They could really put themselves in a good spot. What would really make me sick is if they lose to Ohio State tonight, drop one of the games at home, lose one of those games on the road. Like if down the stretch here they go 3-3 or something, that would be a massive bummer. Ohio State favored tonight basically because they're at home. They're not awful, and they're at home. And it's hard to go on the road and win in the Big Ten, especially as we've seen recently. Just look at what happened at Assembly Hall. That's a bummer. Is you'd love to have the USC game that you didn't give away, or you'd love to have the Indiana game where you could have slammed the door and maybe not gotten every call to go against you down the stretch. I don't think it was some conspiracy. You just got bad officiating luck down the stretch. Winning on the road in the Big Ten is hard. Tonight will be no different. 608-321-1670. We'll come back on the other side. The show presented tonight by Kai's Chevy Town. See Kai's, be wise, see Kai's for the best buys. That's what they've been saying for a long time, for 3 generations, in fact. They've been family owned and operated and helping people in Northwest Wisconsin for 3 generations. They're less than a mile off I-94. They're a short drive from anywhere. And if you're looking for a new vehicle, if you're like me, I got my new vehicle with them about 1.5 years ago. And when I went into the buying process, my thought was, I want something newer because my previous car was about 20 years old. I just need an upgrade. I need something a little bit more reliable. I don't need brand new, but I need something newer. Well, if you're thinking along those lines like I was, they're running some great 2025 closeouts, especially on Tahoes, Suburban, that sort of thing. If you want something a little bit bigger for the family, or you need to haul something, or you just want a truck, they have some great closeout deals with thousands of $6, $7, $8, $9, $10,000 worth of savings on some of these 2025 models that they're closing out. And of course, if you want to go brand new, they got the 2026s on their lot as well. So you can check their inventory. It's updated daily. ChevyTownUSA.com. I want to talk some baseball when we come back.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
With Pella, you get so much more than stunning windows and doors. You get the Pella experience. Pella manufactures, sells, installs, and services every product. And with a 10-year labor warranty, your windows and doors are worry-free for years to come. If something goes wrong, we're here to handle it because you work with the same team from start to finish.
Right now, get 0% interest for up to 48 months.
Visit PellaWI.com today.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show, welcome back. I want to talk baseball. We're going to take a quick call first. I do have to address another comment on the live stream, goose eggs towards Mississippi Drew, on the subject of our sponsor, Kai's Chevytown. Says, will Kai's service department work on Drew's dumpy Toyota? Or just tell him to keep driving that jalopy down the road? First of all, I love the word jalopy, very underused. I think it's one of my favorite recurring bits on this network, and it takes place on the morning show, Over the Line, of goose eggs and Westby letting Mississippi Drew have it over the fact that he's got the second nicest truck in the Harbor Freight parking lot behind, of course, Goose Eggs, Denali HD, all options available. It is one of my favorite recurring bits. Drew's dumpy Toyota. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Oh, Grant. Coyote Mike.
Coyote Mike, what's going on? It's been a little bit. This is a perfect primer to talk baseball because I know you're a big Brewers guy.
I know. I had to call in because I was going to say, guess what day Saturday is?
Is it the first Brewers radio broadcast?
Well, it could be, but it's their first game.
First game?
First
Okay.
preseason game. I'm going to have to get my ears in shape because I'll be listening to every one.
Oh, hell yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think is going to happen with them? I think they're going to do well again.
I think they'll be good. I don't know that they'll win 97 games, but if they win much fewer than 90, I think the season would be a disappointment. I'm coming around. Crazy, I know. I'm coming around to the idea that they'll be okay at third base. Whether it's Ridnifo, is that how you say it? I think they see some things in Hamilton that maybe others don't. That would be my guess here, just based on things that I've heard and asked around. I think they love his defensive metrics. Even though external metrics don't love him as much, I think they have a lot of internal belief there.
Yeah, well, I'm not an analytical stat guy. I just go strictly a lot just by gut feeling and intuition and everything. So I'm glad they left. I'm glad they left Terang at second base. Some of the plays I saw him make last year were so athletic. I just think that he fits there perfectly. And the rest of the infield feeds off of that. So I just wish that Pat Murphy was coaching the Packers.
Yeah.
Just listening to him and then listening to that clip of Matt LaFleur, I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, here we go again. And geez, Pat Murphy, whether he's goofing around or serious, he means business. And I just think that's what they need up in Green Bay. So we'll hope that, something changes up there. Let's keep our fingers crossed. But that's all I wanted to say, Grant. I'm waiting to see what you have to talk about the rest of the show here.
Well, and I'll do my best, Coyote Mike. I'll build on that Brewers take before we get on to the Tony Clark news. Based on things I've read, people I've talked to, I think they really like Hamilton more than you would have reason to like him. I think they internally love how he profiles on defense. You talk to anyone about Blake Perkins when he first arrived in Milwaukee 2 years ago. It was no secret at spring training. The Brewers loved their metrics, loved his defense to the point where they talked about him like, we think he's the best defensive center fielder in baseball. And he might be right up there. Defense is a hard thing to measure, but I have a hard time thinking that there are many guys in baseball who are better at tracking down balls and delivering accurate throws than Blake Perkins. I'm hearing some similar things about Hamilton where it's like internally they love how he profiles defensively. I think there's also some belief that there was a disconnect between the major and the minor league levels in Boston of exactly how they were instructing hitting, how they were bringing him up. I don't know that I trust Boston just as a baseball apparatus. I think the Red Sox fancy themselves another version of a smart team that's looking to raise their own talent, to win on pitching and defense. It's something that their execs, it's something that what's his nuts? I actually watched a little bit of his press conference the other day because I wanted to hear what he said about Durbin. Why can I not see the Red Sox GM? It doesn't matter who his name is. But I think they fancy themselves like the Brewers or the Guardians or the Rays, which is stupid because they have so much money. Whether or not their ownership wants to spend like they used to, I guess. But the fact that the proud Red Sox are operating like that is sad in and of itself. But I also think they're not as good at it. I don't think the Red Sox are as good at doing the things that the Brewers and the Guardians and the Rays are doing. And that's how Quinn Priester gets out of there. And I also think, again, that there's some belief with Hamilton specifically. The defense is better than the metrics would say externally. And the offense and the way that it was being taught and coached was a little disconnected and choppy from the AAA level to the major league level. And that would track with what we know about the Red Sox. Craig Breslow. Yeah, that's his name. Thank you. Not Chaim Bloom, but Craig Breslow. They're the same exact person, these baseball nerds. I'll give you one cut from Pat Murphy before we get to the Tony Clark story, too, just because you referenced him. I played this cut on Bill's show. I really liked it. Pat Murphy talking about positions in a starting lineup where maybe there's not competition if guys earn certain spots already.
I mean, I'd like to say everywhere, but we've got some guys that have the right it factor, that what we have to do is keep them hungry, like they've established themselves, they've been through it. Now, how do you stay hungry? How do you keep that fight like never before on the basic things and not let your own personal career get involved with how you're going to play the game? Because oftentimes, hey, if I hit a few more home runs, I get paid a little more. And if I do this, I can be considered for, what I mean? And it's like, bro, look, this is how you were, this is why you're a winning player. Get to first, you know what I mean? That's figure out a way, whatever way, and don't sacrifice anything else to help the team win and have that uncommon mindset. And, that'll be a challenge, but there'll be competition everywhere. I mean, that's the way it goes.
It's a little bit of Pat Murphy. I just like his approach. And he gives us some great sound. I'm glad that they're down there, and we have a contingent of reporters now getting us some sound, and appreciate Mike Clemens for forwarding that along. The news in baseball today is that Tony Clark is stepping down. I'll give you a little bit from Ken Rosenthal here. Facing growing concerns from players in the wake of a federal investigation and the revelation from a personal impropriety, Tony Clark is expected to resign from his position as the executive director of the Major League Baseball Players Association, leaving the union scrambling to find a leader heading into a lengthy dispute this winter, according to people briefed on the decision. An internal inquiry revealed that Clark engaged in an inappropriate relationship with his sister-in-law, who was hired by the MLBPA in 2023, as ESPN first reported. The relationship came to light at a time when members of MLBPA's 8-player executive subcommittee have been in contact with both federal officials and players' own outside counsel regarding a Department of Justice probe into Clark and the union. The Eastern District of New York had been looking into Clark's handling of union finances. No response from Clark or his attorney. The void atop the union could be filled by Deputy Director Bruce Mayer, who led bargaining for the players during the 2022 lockout, but the union stopped short of naming him as the interim head of after a conference call convened on Tuesday by the executive subcommittee and all representatives from all 30 clubs. I feel we have made some mistakes in the past by making rushed decisions, said Baltimore Orioles pitcher Chris Bassett, member of the subcommittee. The committee and all the reps agreed we want to get this right. We don't want to get it done just because there's a void. Remember, that's what the NFLPA did. They rushed their guy in there, and that thing blew up. Clark and the MLBPA were supposed to start their annual tour of spring training camps in Arizona on Tuesday. The first stop, a meeting with the Guardians, was canceled, which the team found out from the union at 6 a.m. local time. Mayer spent time calling agents on Tuesday to firm up support among players, according to people familiar with the situation. So we don't need to go too deep into this. I guess Tony Clark was both misappropriating money, knocked me over with a feather, yeah, absolutely, and also had a personal impropriety with his sister-in-law, which led everyone on social media to ask, okay, does that mean his brother's wife or his what? Wait, his brother's wife or his sister's brother's what? There's two ways to do that. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm asking. Not that it matters. It's just people are nosy. People are interesting. People are interested. Major League Baseball has the strongest players union hands down, it's not close. I don't know that this will be a massive chink in their armor going into these labor negotiations. I do know that this is the type of thing we see in the NFL all the time. This is what happened with, again, was it J.C. Tretter? There's a huge story about this, about how they were rushed through and the ballots were like, it was just, it was rushed. It was rushed. It was all over the place. And the NFLPA, they couldn't even get their report cards to hold up. If that goes to show how weak the NFLPA, the offseason report cards that are published every year, where the Players Association surveys the players about their team's facilities and the food and the childcare and all the things. And we would learn, like, oh, the Patriots plane has ashtrays in the armrests, right? Like those sorts of things. Like, it was great content. And the league won their grievance to get those things sealed. Now they'll probably get leaked, but they won't be able to be published like they have been in the past, because that's how weak the NFL union is, which is why the owners have been taking it to them in every labor negotiation basically in my lifetime. I would like, personally, the owners to notch a couple W's against the players. It's not that I'm pulling for management, although maybe I am. It's not that I'm pulling against the players. I just have a really hard time with players like Bryce Harper basically telling the commissioner to F off when he comes to visit their locker room. Man, if you're here to talk about a salary cap, then you can get the F out of our clubhouse. Like, okay, Bryce, let's grow up. Or Manny Machado this last weekend, basically saying, and I'll pull up the story here, saying every team could spend like the Dodgers if they wanted. Well, like, no, that's not even close to correct. I don't know where Manny is. How do I put this? A dumbass. Yeah, here's the quote from Talking Baseball. I effing love it. Every team should be doing it. S is effing great for the game. I think every team has the ability to do it. It might be great for the game if more teams do it, but that's the thing. More teams can't do it. Again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Manny Machado. I shouldn't use that word. He's just a little, he's kind of, what's the word? Dumbass. Yeah, that's right. Of course. So I'm interested to see how the absence of Tony Clark or the power vacuum at the top changes things moving forward. It's just that Scott Boras has so much power because he has so many of the big clients, and the big clients are looking out for their own interests. The big time players are looking out for their own interests, which probably trickles down. Doesn't always mean the best thing for the smaller agents and the smaller players, but those aren't the players with all the power. It's Scott Boras and his horde. Yeah, thank you for the help on live stream. Lloyd Howell Jr. went to strip clubs and the company expensed them, not J.C. Tretter. It was Lloyd Howell Jr. But Lloyd Howell Jr. was rushed into that, and his election was expedited by J.C. Tretter. It wasn't J.C. Tretter himself. Thank you. I could have pulled that up over the break. I could have, but I didn't, because I didn't think we were going to talk about it. But yeah, it was Lloyd Howell Jr. who was expensing 6, 7, 8 hour car services to sit outside the strip club, where he would go from the airport straight to the strip club, where he would have the town car wait for him, and he'd be there all night. It's like, buddy, could you be at least a little subtle about it? Like, going to the strip club it's not something that a man loses his job over, but you can't expense 8 hours worth of strip club time and the car to sit. Like, be a little subtle, right? Try to hold on to be a little ignorant, like George Costanza when he was like, was that wrong? Should I have not done that? That approach works if you only do something a little wrong. Like, I expensed a couple $100 worth of strip club. Sorry, I went there for food, and then one thing led to another. I'm sorry, I didn't. You can get away with that. Lloyd Howell Jr. What a dunce. We'll take a 3-minute break here, wrap up the show next. Your final texts, your final thoughts, and wide open phone lines if you want to jump in on anything we've discussed over the last hour and 50 minutes. 608-321-1670.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Last couple of minutes here. Time for you to jump in if you'd like. We got some open phone lines. We'll make you wait. 608-321-1670. We'll go right to you. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, this is Louie from Westby.
Louie and Westby. Oh, what's going on, Louie?
Not too much. I don't know how we get to this point in Vernon County news where Lee's truck is high-end news. I just don't. I just drove past it. I'm
the
about
Denali?
a block and a half from it. I don't get this whole hype of this black Denali.
He's created quite a storyline.
It's something else. He's actually my cousin.
Well, of course.
And it kind of blew my mind that he was hyping that thing up in the Twitch chat on Evo show.
Does he feel like a pretty big deal driving that thing around the main drag of Westby? Is that what it does?
Yeah, I think the buildings are so close. He thinks it's a little louder than what it is.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah, the north and south drag there through Westby. You probably reverberates the exhaust pretty well.
You can hear it pretty near all the way up the hill in Viroqua, huh?
Yeah, probably.
Anything?
Yeah, well, I'm employed in the city of Viroqua. I have yet to hear him over there. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure this is a challenge that he'll undertake. Yeah, he thinks his truck is pretty cool. I think he mostly just likes dumping on Mississippi Drew's Toyota.
It sounds like him.
So Goose Eggs on live stream says this is because he drives a 2003 Lariat. That's why he doesn't get it. It's not a feeling, it's a fact.
This thing is a gem. He could talk all the crap.
All right, here we go.
I got more truck right here underneath the hood than he has in the whole Denali, and I paid $5,800 for it. So,
how long ago? $5,800. That's not bad.
About a month and a half ago. I got some sap up in. Yeah, I got some sap up in Fountain City there. I had to make a little bit of a trip. I had to get my old Wisconsin passport to go north here, from Vernon County to La Crosse County to go pick her up.
All the way up to Vernon. Well, you probably cross, if you drive up through Coon Valley, you cross county lines more than once because of the shapes of the thing.
Depends which, I guess you know what? It depends which way you go. You take P, you might cross 3.
And that's what I'm saying.
Monroe. Yeah.
Or if you stay on 14, you take the cut across, down pert near the Neprud Lane there.
You can get lost. Yeah, I'm pretty close to Neprud, actually.
Oh, you can get lost down there towards Three Chimney Way, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You can buy some good corn over there, too.
Stop at Branches, you can get a case of wine. This is the stupidest conversation.
And then you can go out. You can keep on drinking, too. Go to Vernon Vineyards.
There you go. Yeah. Why not? I mean, not that far.
I
Anything
want
else?
to get a hot take from you. Have you been following up with Night of the Seven Kingdoms?
With what?
Night of the Seven Kingdoms, the new Game of Thrones series?
Oh, no, but that's because I don't have HBO right now. The second that I have it, I'm going to watch it because I hear incredible things, Louis.
Well, tell Bill to open up that wallet for you so you can watch it.
You get an HBO Max subscription. Is Mad Men on
Yeah.
HBO Max now? Because I want to rewatch that thing too.
I think it is. I get mine through Hulu. I just added to the bundle. But
All right, well, okay. All right. Anything else, Louis? I got to run. Show's wrapping up, sadly.
I got nothing for you, brother. This is my first time calling in. I've always wanted to.
Well, no. I mean, it's a treasure, isn't it? Isn't this fun?
Yeah. I've been listening for a long time. First time, long time.
First time. Thank you, Louis.
Yeah,
I'm going to be on
wait,
now.
wait,
If you work in Viroqua, tune in on Thursday morning. I'm going to be on with Ernie just after 9.
Oh yeah. Look at that. Yeah, maybe I'll have to hop onto that one too. That's that Dan Patrick time though. You're gonna throw me off my rhythm.
All right. I would never tell you to turn off WK2. All right, I'm going to run, Louis. Have a good one.
Yep. Yeah.
You get lost back there. Oh, yeah. Oh, that conversation made me want to drink a couple beers in a good way. Complimentary. I got more truck under the hood than he's gotten the whole thing. I only paid $5,300 for it. Anyone else want to set it on the table? Compare trucks. Tomorrow, I got my hands on a little Marcotte Nasi audio. He spoke today. Talked about money, so we'll get to that. We'll connect with Jesse Temple, Badger Connect. We'll get to that. And again, if anyone else wants to call in and compare trucks, we get Mississippi Drew's dumper of a Toyota. Is it a Tundra, Tacoma? Does anybody know? Maybe we'll have to rank listener vehicles. Again, my vehicle provided by Kai Chevytown up in Menominee. Short drive from anywhere. Inventory online, ChevytownUSA.com. As they say, be wise, see Kai's for the best buys. Got to go all the way up to Fountain City there. That's the stupidest conversation. The problem is this is the stupidest conversation I've ever had on the show, and also one of my favorites, because I would love to just, Bill always talks about, I want this show to be like just friends sitting at a bar, drinking beer, talking sports. And the thing is, when I go to a bar and drink beer and talk with my friends, I don't want to talk sports. I want to have conversations like that, where we're talking about county lines and driving up to Cochrane Fountain City, or maybe all the way to Alma. Who's to say? Getting lost down there in Neprood Lane. You get some good firewood down towards Three Chimney. I saw a big stack at the end of a driveway. Anyways, fun show. Very fun show. Thank you for listening. Podcast will go up just after 6 o'clock, so you can find it there. The first half, we did a lot of backup quarterback talk the first hour of the show. Malik Willis, Justin Fields moving forward. I see Peter Bukowski talked about that on Lockdown today. Great minds think alike. Enjoy the night. Podcast to go up. And, of course, tomorrow we'll talk about Wisconsin, Ohio State, that game tonight as well. Thank you for listening always.